Well, that's important. I mean, you got to have a few criteria that you need to go by when you apply for a credit card. So, in today's conversation, I want to bring a strict sense of strategy, planning into the whole conversation. I don't want you to apply for a credit card randomly anymore, okay? So, let's talk about personal credit card for fair credit. 4 mistakes you must stop making on your application.
One in a million, one in a million, one in a million. You know they're coming up to me, cause I'm just the kind of flow with the stinging can the beat, but the rhythm's getting higher. Go, 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 go. One in a million, one in a million, one in a million, one in a million, one in a million.
Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Studio Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee, or tea, or vodka, and let's roll. In today's conversation, I want to talk to you about personal credit card for fair credit. 4 mistakes you must stop making on your application. Okay, mistake number one: fair credit. You got to make sure that you have indeed fair credit. A lot of people just sit around and just say, I think I have fair credit. Okay, do you understand what fair credit means, boss? I'm talking to you. I mean, let's have a conversation about that, because fair credit, it's like average credit. Okay, but the thing is, you need to ascertain that you indeed have a fair credit. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, first of all, you need to understand: is fair credit score average? Is it average? Because you got to really, yes, it is average. Because when we look at the credit score spectrum, you are looking at poor 300 to 579. You are looking at fair 580 to 669, good 670 to 739, very good 740 to 799, and exceptional 800 to 850. Right. So when we talk about fair credit, we are talking about somebody who has what? Who has credit between 580 and 669. Is that you, boss? Is that you right now? Okay, if that's you, then yeah, so you're considered fair credit. Now, let's talk about fair versus good credit. Is fair credit good enough? Well, it's not good enough. Okay, it's actually in between bad and good. Okay, so what I'm telling you here is that you need to continually improve your credit score. Is really important. If you have fair credit, you will get credit cards, you will get mortgage, you will get a personal loan, car loans, and whatnot. But the APR will still be in double digits. This is just facts. Those are facts. Okay, don't expect to have exceptionally low APR if you have fair credit. Okay, now how do you improve fair credit? Well, make all your credit card payments on time. We are going back to what we said before about payment history. Very important. Okay, you want to keep your balances as low as possible. Again, this goes back to what? Credit utilization ratio. Very important. Okay, you want to increase your available credit when you can. So in other words, you apply for new credit cards strategically. Okay, this is really important to kind of have this sort of ability to always change things around and to always improve your credit game and check your credit reports for errors. Okay, this is something that we have told people time and again. You got to have a strategy where you check your credit reports at least once a week, or if you can, once every 2 weeks or once a month. But you got to have that strategy, that routine of checking your credit score. Mistake number two that we have seen on application all across the country, and that you need to stop making now, is card selection. You need to pick the right card based on your needs. In other words, if you're applying for the wrong card for you, you will be denied. Okay, so you gotta have a strategy where you are making sure that the card that you are picking is indeed the card that you need, the card that your household needs right now. Okay, and it's very important. It's very important because, listen, let's just say you have a white collar job, okay, and your family spends a lot of cash on groceries. You want a credit card that allows you to get cash back on grocery shopping. Okay, you don't want to get a credit card for balance transfers. You don't want to get a credit card for travel rewards, because you're not a traveler. You don't travel as often. Okay, so think about that. So when we talk about card selection, it's important to understand that every card has some requirements. So you need to make sure that you check your credit to make sure that the credit score that the card requires, you indeed fit that credit score. Okay, very important. You got to really identify which type of credit card you need. Boss, are you there? I'm talking to you, and you probably listen to some. I mean, listen here. Yeah, which type of credit card do you need right now? This is not a random question I'm asking. I'm asking you a very specific question. Talk to me about that. Do you need a credit card that improves your credit when the credit is limited or damaged? Do you need a credit card that saves you money on interest? Do you want a credit card that earns rewards? Talk to me about that. I don't want you to walk around the neighborhood and apply for a credit card randomly. What's up with that? So you got to be really specific, okay? So let's talk about that. Yeah. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you have a high salary job or you have a low salary job or you have middle salary. And when we talk about being strategic about card selection, it doesn't matter. You just want to pick a card that fits your spending needs, okay? And always narrow your choices by asking the right questions. You got to ask the right questions, okay? Okay, and last but not the least, once you find the card, then you can apply it. Now, make sure that you apply for the card that offers the highest overall value. What I'm trying to say here is that you're going to have a constellation of offers from credit card issuers. They're going to bombard you with pre-qualification offers all the time, and the thing is, you have to think very deeply. Don't you just apply for all kind of credit card offers that you get in the mail. No. Be in a situation where you apply logic, you apply cause and effect, you apply logic. In other words, is this card for me? Can I use this card to better my life, to improve my life? The third criteria that I want to talk to you about is your pay information. See, the thing is, you want to put employment and pay that are verifiable. A lot of folks just put some kind of information like, yeah, I work here. I work at Walmart. I'm making 25 grand a year. I'm making 30 grand a year, whatever. But can you verify that? Uncle, the last time you applied for a credit card, you put your income. Was your income verifiable? Was your employment verifiable? Or you just, auntie, I'm talking to you too. Yeah. Pop, grandpa. Yeah, you're there too, grandma. Yeah, every time you apply for a credit card, you're just like, I'm all happy. I'm doing this, la la la, blah blah blah. But question is, can you verify your employment? Okay, so when we talk about acceptable documents that you can submit to show proof of employment on a credit card application, when you have fair credit, bad credit, exceptional credit, or good credit, those are recent pay stubs or vouchers, earnings statements, recent bank records showing payroll direct deposit, and federal income tax statements. Okay, and this is logic. Why? Because on your pay stub, you can verify automatically your employer, but also your pay. On an earnings statement, the same thing. On your bank deposits, on direct deposits to your bank account, you can verify that too. Okay, so when we talk about that, you gotta think about the right document to actually provide to the credit card issuer so you can actually verify employment. This is important, boss. Okay, son, are you there? Are you listening to me? So don't make that mistake next time you apply for a credit card. I don't want you to make that mistake ever again. Okay, we gotta put some strict sense of planning into the whole credit card application. We have to be winners. Okay, and we do things a certain way. We apply a certain formula. We apply a certain code. Okay, and there's no randomness in this whole thing here. Okay, now some creditors, remember, some credit card issuers and lenders use an employment database. Okay, so they just want to see things around. As a matter of fact, there is Equifax that has an employment database, and it's called the work number. Okay, so they look at current and past employers of yours, your income and deductions, whether you have insurance, okay, average hours per pay period, pay increases, okay, next schedule and last, and if you're getting workers' compensation. So the whole thing is to always tell the truth on a credit card application, because if your card issuer ever wants to check whatever you put on a credit card through databases like work number, you could be in trouble if you lied on your credit card application. Well, it's never good anyway to lie on a credit card application or on a loan application. Never do this, okay? This has legal consequences, even federal criminal consequences. Never, ever, ever do that. Now, I want to talk to you about your DTI. That's actually the fourth the fourth information that you want to really be clear about on your credit card application. Okay, be truthful with your expenses. So a credit card actually, any credit card issuer can estimate your DTI. Okay, this is really important. We have to really be clear about that. Okay, so one thing you need to understand, when we talk about DTI, what is that? What? Yeah. What's her name? Kayla. Yeah, you want to ask a question? Well, your question is about DTI, right? Yeah, well, DTI first, it just means debt to income ratio. Okay, so yeah, so you probably just look at your mortgage or rent payments, right? Auto loan payments, credit card payments, personal loan payments. Okay, if you are paying some homeowners association fees, okay, alimony or child support payments, so those will constitute your total debt payments. So Kayla, in your case, you have to think about what kind of debt payments you are making on a monthly basis. Okay, when we talk about DTI, we are speaking about a monthly occurrence here. Okay, and the whole thing is, it's not just about being truthful with your expenses, so the credit card issuer can estimate your DTI, but it's also important to lower your DTI, because we got to be in a situation where we are constantly improving our DTI. Okay, we are constantly lowering the mark here. We got to bring the bar down. Very important. When the thing here is that when you speak about DTI, there is an inverse correlation between your DTI and your FICO score and your credit card approval odds. In other words, the lower your DTI, the higher your chances of being approved on a credit card application, and the higher your chances of improving your FICO score. Okay, so if you want to lower your DTI, I want you right now to pay down high balances. If you have some loans that you are currently dealing with, try to bring it down. You want to lower interest on debts also. And, you can always renegotiate interest on that. A lot of folks don't know this. People believe that, if I have 10% on a loan for 10 years or 7 years and whatnot, I'm stuck with that loan. I'm stuck with that APR. No way, Jose. No. Hey, Grandpa. Hey, are you in that situation? Hey, Grandma, are you in that situation? Well, if you are in that situation, I want you to walk right now. I want you to bring your ass to the nearest branch of the lender right now, of the bank or credit union that has given you the loan, and you want to renegotiate a loan. You want to not the loan, but you want to renegotiate the APR. Yeah, that's totally possible. And make sure that sometimes you can put credit cards on ice. In other words, don't just use credit cards all the time. You want to use some strategy to actually, reduce your expenses, okay, and take on a side hustle you can enjoy. In other words, increase your salary, increase your income, and implement a 24-hour rule when you spend. Don't just get into the whole shopping spree thing. It is your credit card, okay? Do you need the things you are buying? People just walking around and just shopping like crazy. Well, you shop like crazy. Your FICO score is taking a nosedive like crazy, okay? And you don't want that. Let me give you a few pro tips here. So I gave you all the four mistakes the four elements you need to pay attention to, right? So, 4 mistakes you must stop making on your application. Fair credit. In other words, you have to ascertain your credit. You need to actually pick the right card selection, okay, based on your needs. You need to pick the right card based on your needs. You need to actually put employment and pay information that are verifiable, and you need to be truthful with your expenses so the credit card issuer can estimate your DTI. Okay, now let me give you a few pro tips. How do you qualify for any credit card, whether you have fair credit or bad credit or good credit or excellent credit? Well, the whole thing here is that you need to understand, you need to be aware of potential injustices in the credit card application. That's what it is. I mean, the credit card application is a game, but you got to be aware of the game, the rules of the game, so you can be a better player. Okay, so the thing here is that you got to make sure that you are old enough to qualify for a credit card. Okay, the legal age is 18, so if you're not 18, in some cases it's 21. So you really need to understand that, hey, listen, if you don't meet the legal age requirements, you're not going to qualify. You need to have your own income also. In other words, you need to demonstrate some kind of income, some kind of cash flow, okay? You can't be just like walking around and say, and I'm not speaking about having a job, because you can have a job because you can be unemployed and still generate income, okay? So for most people, yes, a job generates the revenue we need, the salary we need. But you gotta need, if you have investments, if you're receiving dividends every quarter or every month, okay, if you have a business on the side that generates money all the time while you're sleeping, all that kind of stuff. If you have passive income, that's income. Okay, have a positive credit history if you can. In other words, you probably have fair credit right now. Okay, that's fine. You do your thing, trying to chill and whatever. But think about continually improving your credit. Okay, and trying to limit the debt that you have. Don't have a lot of debts. I mean, the thing here is that you have to think about your credit utilization ratio, okay? And that's very important. So you got to think about two things when it comes to debts. You got to think about your credit utilization ratio and your debt to income ratio. I've spoken about the debt to income ratio before, but the credit utilization, your CUR, is also important because it accounts for what? 30% of your FICO score. And the thing here is, if you want to qualify for any credit card, get a cosigner if possible. Okay, and also save up a security deposit in case you want to get a secure credit card. That's also good, but it depends on your goals anyway, though. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Finest, yo, Mr. Killer, and call me señorita. I puppy got me dreaming, my legs up on the ceiling. Oh yeah. I know when he come, he ain't never gonna leave. No. Hit it the night run, and that's the way I wanna be. So don't think I'm the one to won't ever be enough.
Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm talking to you today about personal credit card for fair credit. 4 mistakes you must stop making on your application. Okay, now I just want to have a general conversation about the credit cards, and here is a winner strategy for you. A winner strategy. You need to understand credit card eligibility requirements. Yeah, this is really important. Okay, and if you want to prepare a popping credit card application and win the limits, the card that you want to with the highest limits possible, you got to understand the credit card requirements. Okay, so when we talk about age, we're talking about income, we're talking about residency or citizenship, we're talking about credit score. Those are things you have to think about, and you have to also know the information that you need to submit an application. Okay, so sometimes they will ask you personal information. All those elements are important, though. Don't make mistakes, because if you make mistakes, your application could be rejected, because the card issuer will match whatever info you give them versus what they have on file anyway. Okay, so when we talk about personal information, we are speaking about what? Your full name, date of birth, social, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and remember that some credit cards can even issue a credit card. Some credit card issuer, rather, some issuers can actually approve you even if you don't have a social security number. If you have an I-10, you are in this country, let's say you're working and you have a visa, and if the credit card actually allows you, you can actually if the credit card issuer allows you, you can get a credit card, not a problem. Okay, and when we talk about the financial information the card issuer requires, make sure that you are very careful here. So your employment status, okay, your total annual income, your non-taxable annual income, okay, your monthly housing cost, your bank account information, okay, and some additional optional information that you might see on a credit card application. They might ask you for authorized user details, and they can also talk to you about balance transfer deals. Okay, so if you are interested in a balance transfer, or you want to add an authorized user to your credit card, so this is those two sections are important for you to really pay attention to. So overall, what I'm trying to tell you here is that the more information you have, the better. Okay, so you want to educate yourself when it comes to credit card eligibility requirements, so you are pretty comfortable when you apply for a credit card. You know whether you apply online or offline, you are pretty comfortable that you can actually get the card you need and deserve. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about, the approach. Here is the approach that I recommend, that we recommend that you follow. You want to apply at a branch or over the phone to boost your approval chances. I know a lot of people right now, they think about, hey, I'm going to apply online anyway. This is fast, it is convenient. Oh, it is convenient, but it is good for you. Because when we apply for a credit card, we have to strategically think about one thing: victory, approval. That's what I care about. I want you to be approved. I want your ass to be approved. Okay, I don't want your ass to be convenient or to be speedy, whatever that means. So we got to be in a situation, again, being strategic about everything we do. Okay, you want to have a superb application process. And that only happens at a branch or over the phone, because when you apply online, you are being taken care of by an algorithm. And that algorithm, if there is a mistake on your credit card application, the algorithm will actually reject you. Okay, folks believe that it is a human being that actually approves their credit card application when they apply online. No, you have an algorithm that takes care of the pre-selection, that takes care of the pre-qualification. In other words, when you hit the submit, when you hit the apply button online, if you don't pass muster, if you don't pass the preliminary muster, you will receive a denial letter. Okay, sometimes they tell you, hey, listen, we'll get back to you within a week. That's because there is some inconsistency, there is some dichotomy between the information you provided, some contradiction between the information you provided and the information on file. That's why the credit card issuer needs more time to actually verify whatever information you provided. Okay, so when you apply at a branch, it's great because you can bring your paperwork. You can bring your proof of income, right? You can ask any question beforehand. You can talk to the rep, to the bank rep, or to the credit union rep, okay? And right there and there, you can gauge your approval odds, okay? And that's important because you can say, okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna apply for this credit card in 6 months, or I'm gonna do this in 3 months, or I'm just gonna do it in 1 year, because you have talked to the rep and you are comfortable that, hey, listen, I don't qualify or I qualify. So the whole thing is to get intel about the proper timing for your credit card application. That's the kind of scenario I want you to have. I don't want you to just apply for a credit card randomly, okay, where you have no idea whether you'll be accepted or you'll be approved, okay? Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was talking to you about personal credit card for fair credit, 4 mistakes you must stop making on your application. So, mistake about your credit, okay? Mistake about the card selection itself, okay? Your pay information, your DTI, and I gave you a few pro tips that you can apply, and I gave you a winner strategy also. And last but not the least, I gave you the right approach to use when applying for a credit card. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.